There is a profound truth about life. Nothing silences your critics more than undeniable success. Words can be argued, accusations can be debated, but results cannot be denied. The greatest revenge you can ever have is not in lowering yourself to fight your enemies on their level, but in rising so high in your purpose, your gift, and your destiny that their attempts to belittle you become meaningless. Success is the ultimate weapon because it does not destroy others. It makes them irrelevant. When you thrive, you prove that no attack, no betrayal, and no opposition had the power to stop you. You see, revenge in the form of retaliation always ties you to the person who hurt you. It keeps you on their level. But success liberates you. It lifts you above the noise of gossip, the sting of rejection, and the bitterness of betrayal. Thriving is the best revenge because it transforms your energy from focusing on them to focusing on you. When you invest your strength in building rather than battling, in creating rather than complaining, in rising rather than retaliating, you position yourself for a life that speaks louder than any argument. Life will always give you enemies, sometimes through jealousy, sometimes through misunderstanding, and sometimes through outright malice. But your true enemy is not the person, it is the distraction they create. If you give your time, your focus, and your heart to fighting people, you lose the momentum of your own journey. But if you pour that same energy into growth, into vision, into development, you turn every attempt against you into fuel for your destiny. Thriving takes the weapons of your enemies and converts them into tools for your success. The most powerful thing about thriving is that it requires no announcement. You don't need to tell people you've succeeded. They will see it. When your life begins to shine, when your results speak for themselves, when your fruit is undeniable, the very people who once spoke against you become silent. Their attacks become their own shame. Thriving is not about proving them wrong. It is about proving yourself right. It is not about showing them who you are. It is about showing yourself who you were always created to be. The pain of betrayal, rejection, or criticism can either make you bitter or make you better. Success is the choice to be better. It is the decision to rise above your emotions and to let your progress become your protest. Thriving says, "You thought I was finished, but I've just begun. You thought I was broken, but I'm being rebuilt. You thought I was defeated, but I am destined." Success transforms your story so that what was meant for your harm becomes the testimony of your strength. Never waste your life trying to get even with people. If you fight them, you become like them. But if you thrive, you rise above them. The highest revenge is not in destroying your enemies, it is in making them unnecessary in your life. When you reach a level of success where you are too busy fulfilling your calling to even think of them, then you have already won. You don't destroy enemies by attacking them. You destroy them by outlasting them, by outgrowing them, by thriving beyond their reach. So remember this, the best revenge is not to prove them wrong, but to prove yourself faithful. It is not to silence their voices with your words, but to silence them with your fruit. It is not to fight them on their level, but to elevate yourself to the place where they can no longer touch you. The power of success is that it not only redeems your pain, it also removes your enemies from relevance. Thriving is the best revenge because it transforms you into living proof that nothing and no one can stop the one who chooses to rise. True success is not measured by defeating others, but by fulfilling your own purpose. Many people misunderstand success because they think it is about comparison, competition, and proving themselves to those around them. They assume success is standing taller than the next person, earning more than a rival, or silencing the voices of critics by overtaking them in some visible way. But the truth is that this form of success is shallow, unstable, and fleeting. Real success has nothing to do with where you stand in relation to others. It has everything to do with where you stand in relation to your assignment in life. You were created for a reason, designed with intention, and gifted with unique abilities that no one else can carry out in the exact same way. Until you discover, embrace, and fulfill that purpose, you can achieve great things in the eyes of others and still feel empty within yourself. When you measure success by defeating others, you trap yourself in an endless cycle of comparison. Someone will always have more resources. Someone will always gain more attention. Someone will always be ahead in some area. If your standard of success is outdoing them, then your peace and joy will always be at risk. You will never truly rest because you are only as happy as your last victory over another person. But when your measure of success is tied to purpose, you become anchored in something that cannot be taken away by anyone else's progress. Purpose gives you stability because it is not about competition, it is about completion. It is about finishing the assignment given uniquely to you. Every person carries a seed of destiny inside them. It is like a divine blueprint, a hidden script that guides you toward the fulfillment of who you were meant to be. Success, in its truest sense, is simply the manifestation of that blueprint. It is the flowering of that seed. For one person, it may mean building a business that creates opportunities for others. For another, it may mean raising children who will grow into responsible, impactful adults. For someone else, it may mean writing words that inspire generations or leading a community toward transformation. Success looks different for every individual because purpose is unique to every life. Measuring your success by defeating others robs you of the beauty of your individuality. It forces you to chase shadows instead of embracing your light. Defeating others may bring a temporary sense of satisfaction, but it never brings lasting fulfillment. You can silence a critic today, but another one will rise tomorrow. You can outperform a rival today, but someone else will appear to challenge you tomorrow. It is an exhausting way to live because it demands constant proof that you are ahead of everyone else. True success, however, requires no proof to others. It is self-evident. It is seen in the peace you carry, the joy you live with, and the fruit your life produces. It is not about whether you have outshined another person, but about whether you have become the person you were destined to be. Think about the greatest achievers in history, those whose names are remembered not for competing with others, but for completing their unique callings. They did not waste their lives comparing themselves or trying to destroy their enemies. Instead, they focused on their vision and poured themselves into it fully. Their lives became testimonies of purpose fulfilled. Their success was not in defeating those who doubted them, but in thriving despite the doubt. This is why thriving is always superior to fighting. When you thrive in your purpose, you elevate yourself to a place where opposition loses its meaning. True success also protects you from bitterness. If your goal is to defeat others, you will eventually live consumed with envy and resentment. You will measure your worth by someone else's progress, and every time they rise, you will feel threatened. But if your goal is to fulfill your purpose, then their rise does not diminish you. In fact, it can inspire you. You begin to see life not as a battlefield of competitors, but as a garden of unique plants, each one blooming in its season. A rose does not envy a sunflower, and an oak tree does not compete with a palm. Each fulfills its design, and in doing so, it glorifies the one who created it. Success, therefore, is deeply personal. It is the fulfillment of your design, the expression of your gifts, and the completion of your mission. It is not measured by the applause of the crowd or the defeat of your enemies, but by the inner satisfaction of knowing you live true to who you are. The world does not need another imitation. It needs the originality of your purpose lived out. And once you understand this, you will no longer waste your life chasing comparisons or fighting shadows. You will pour yourself fully into the assignment given to you, and that will be the highest form of success you can ever achieve. The best way to answer critics is not with arguments, but with undeniable results. In life, there will always be people who doubt you, misunderstand you, or speak against you. It does not matter how pure your intentions are or how sincere your efforts may be, someone will always find fault. Many waste their energy trying to convince critics to see their value, trying to explain themselves, or trying to argue their way into respect. But arguments rarely change minds. Words can be twisted, intentions can be misjudged, and explanations can fall on deaf ears. What no one can deny, however, is fruit. When your life begins to produce undeniable results, even the loudest critic is silenced. Success makes the strongest statement without requiring you to defend yourself. Arguments are weak weapons because they appeal to opinion, but results appeal to evidence. An opinion can be dismissed, but evidence is undeniable. When you spend your life trying to fight critics with words, you are fighting on their terms, and their terms are endless. A critic is never satisfied. If they doubt one thing, they will soon find another. But when you shift your focus from responding to producing, from defending to delivering, your very achievements do the talking. A life that thrives is the most eloquent argument, and it speaks louder than any defense you could ever make. Consider how much energy is wasted in debates with people who were never going to believe in you anyway. When you pour time into defending yourself, you lose time that could have been invested into building something worthwhile. Critics thrive on distraction. They want you to stop moving forward long enough to get stuck in their noise. But when you refuse to be drawn into their games and instead invest your focus into your vision, you rob them of their power. Results are the ultimate revenge because they make all criticism irrelevant. Once the fruit appears, once the evidence is visible, there is nothing left to debate. Results also have a way of transforming perception. People may resist your words, but they cannot resist the impact of a life that speaks through action. You do not need to tell people what you are capable of when your work already demonstrates it. You do not need to argue about your worth when your contribution proves it. You do not need to convince others of your potential when the reality of your progress displays it openly. Critics may question your intentions, but results reveal your integrity. Critics may doubt your ability, but results reveal your capacity. Critics may deny your future, but results reveal your destiny. This is why results are more powerful than retaliation. When you fight with words, you remain on the same level as those who doubt you. But when you rise through results, you move to a higher level where their words no longer reach. The most painful thing for a critic is not that you argued with them, but that you succeeded without them. It shows that their opposition had no power over your destiny. It shows that while they were busy talking, you were busy working, and while they were busy doubting, you were busy producing. Your results become a mirror that reflects their irrelevance. Another reason results are the best answer is that they inspire others in ways words cannot. When people see what you have built, achieved, or created, it gives them hope that they can do the same. Your story becomes a testimony, your journey becomes a lesson, and your fruit becomes proof that persistence pays off. While critics try to destroy you with negativity, your results multiply your influence by inspiring others. Words divide, but results unite. Words may provoke arguments, but results stir admiration. Words may fuel contention, but results generate respect. When you make results your focus, you also protect your inner peace. Arguments drain your spirit, leaving you frustrated and weary, but producing results fills you with satisfaction. Every step forward, every goal achieved, every victory secured builds confidence within you that no critic can touch. Your joy no longer depends on what others think. It flows from what you know you are accomplishing. Results keep you rooted in progress, while arguments keep you trapped in circles. Choosing results over arguments is choosing forward motion over stagnation, fulfillment over frustration, destiny over distraction. The truth is, you will never silence all critics. Even when you succeed, there will be those who resent your progress, twist your story, or minimize your achievements. But even in their denial, they cannot escape the reality of your results. They may refuse to acknowledge you, but they cannot erase the evidence of what you have built. Results outlive criticism because while critics fade with time, fruit remains. What you produce becomes your legacy, and no voice of doubt can undo what is visibly accomplished. Thriving turns pain into power and transforms setbacks into stepping stones. Every person will encounter moments of disappointment, betrayal, loss, and rejection. Life does not spare anyone from the sting of hardship, but what separates those who rise from those who remain broken is how they respond to that pain. Pain is not meant to paralyze you, it is meant to push you. Setbacks are not meant to define you, they are meant to refine you. Thriving begins when you make the decision that what was meant to destroy you will instead develop you. The power of thriving is that it takes the very things that were designed to weaken you and converts them into the fuel that propels you forward. Pain carries within it the raw material for growth. It forces you to confront areas of weakness, to dig deeper into your strength, and to discover resources within yourself that you would never have tapped into otherwise. Many of the most remarkable achievements in history were born out of adversity. When people are pressed, when they are rejected, when they are underestimated, something powerful often emerges from within them. Thriving is the act of turning wounds into wisdom, turning rejection into redirection, and turning obstacles into opportunities. Setbacks become stepping stones not because the pain disappears, but because the pain is transformed into purpose. When you thrive in the face of difficulty, you declare that circumstances do not control your destiny. A setback is only permanent if you accept it as final. But when you refuse to stop, when you learn from the pain and use it to build something greater, you transform defeat into preparation. The stone that was meant to block your path becomes the very platform you stand on to rise higher. Thriving is never about denying the reality of pain. It is about deciding that pain will not have the last word. Pain has a way of shaping character in ways comfort never can. Comfort keeps you in the familiar, but pain forces you to grow beyond what you thought was possible. Pain makes you resourceful. It teaches you resilience. It builds endurance. It sharpens vision. Thriving takes that process seriously. Instead of running from the discomfort, instead of becoming bitter over what was lost, thriving asks, what can I learn? How can I grow? Where can this lead me? Every setback becomes a classroom, and every hardship becomes a lesson that strengthens your ability to stand taller and reach further. Setbacks are often disguised setups for a greater comeback. What looks like the end is frequently the beginning of something new. When you lose a job, you may discover the courage to start the business you were meant to build. When a relationship fails, you may uncover a strength of independence that allows you to thrive on your own before entering something healthier. When someone betrays you, it may open your eyes to see the true value of loyalty and the power of surrounding yourself with people who genuinely support you. Thriving does not ignore the wound, but it refuses to let the wound waste away unused. It recycles pain into power and transforms stumbling blocks into stepping stones. The beauty of thriving is that it produces evidence. People who knew what you went through will look at you and marvel at the fact that you did not just survive, you advanced. Thriving makes your life a testimony, a living example that setbacks are not the end, but the beginning of transformation. Your scars become symbols of survival, and your story becomes an inspiration to others who are still in their own battles. Thriving says to the world, I have been through pain, but pain did not defeat me. I have faced setbacks, but setbacks did not stop me. I turned them into stepping stones, and now I am rising higher than I ever thought possible. What thriving ultimately teaches is that pain is not wasted. Every tear, every disappointment, every rejection can be redeemed when it is transformed into progress. The people who thrive are not the ones who never experience difficulty. They are the ones who refuse to let difficulty define them. They looked at their pain and chose to use it as a ladder. They took their setbacks and laid them down as steps toward a greater destiny. This is the essence of thriving, the ability to turn what was designed to break you into what builds you, the ability to turn what was meant to silence you into the story that speaks louder than words. When you succeed, you silence opposition without uttering a word. Success has a power that no argument, no debate, and no confrontation can ever match. Words can be ignored, criticism can be dismissed, and opinions can be challenged, but tangible results speak with authority. When your life demonstrates excellence, your achievements become a language that is universally understood, a truth that cannot be denied, and a force that renders opposition powerless. The most effective response to doubt, criticism, or envy is not to engage in conflict, but to focus on producing results so compelling that they leave no room for dispute. Every step forward, every goal achieved, every milestone reached is a silent statement that communicates more than any argument ever could. Opposition thrives on distraction. Critics, naysayers, and doubters feed on your reaction, hoping that you will lower yourself to justify your existence or defend your worth. They want to see you engage in the same negative energy that fuels them. But when you choose success over confrontation, you remove their leverage. Silence becomes your ally because you no longer respond to negativity with negativity. Instead, you respond with excellence. You respond with growth. You respond with a life that speaks for itself. Opposition cannot survive in the presence of genuine accomplishment because achievement is not subjective. It is observable and undeniable. When you focus on thriving, your life becomes evidence of your vision, your discipline, and your determination. You no longer need to convince anyone of your abilities because your results demonstrate them repeatedly. Your progress, your victories, and your impact become a message louder than any debate. Success communicates confidence without arrogance, authority without aggression, and validation without argument. People begin to recognize that the energy they spent doubting you was wasted because you are already moving past them, already achieving, already rising in ways that cannot be stopped. The beauty of silencing opposition through success is that it is peaceful yet powerful. It does not require conflict, confrontation, or force. You do not have to diminish others to elevate yourself. You do not have to fight to prove a point. You do not have to argue to gain recognition. When your life reflects the outcome of your efforts, the results themselves carry the message. Achievements become your voice, milestones become your testimony, and progress becomes your unspoken declaration that you are operating in your purpose and no obstacle can derail you. Many people make the mistake of believing that addressing criticism directly will silence it. They think that an argument or a rebuttal will finally make others see their worth. But criticism often reflects the state of the critic, not the truth of your life. No amount of explanation can change someone who has already made up their mind. The only way to truly render criticism irrelevant is to produce results that cannot be ignored. When your life becomes a living example of success, even the harshest critics have no choice but to acknowledge it, whether silently or reluctantly. Success eliminates the noise of doubt by replacing it with visible proof. Silencing opposition through success also preserves your energy and focus. Engaging with critics consumes time, emotion, and mental bandwidth. It diverts your attention from what truly matters: growth, progress, and fulfillment of purpose. When you dedicate yourself to thriving, you redirect all that energy into actions that yield results. Each accomplishment builds momentum, each milestone fuels confidence, and each success makes the voice of opposition increasingly irrelevant. The more you focus on achieving your vision, the less space there is for negativity to penetrate your life. Ultimately, success as a silent answer demonstrates maturity and wisdom. It shows that you are not easily swayed by opinion, that you are anchored in purpose, and that you understand the value of your time and effort. Silence combined with achievement carries a dignity that arguments cannot match. Your critics may speak, but your life will continue to testify to your capability, resilience, and greatness. While they try to pull you into conflict, you remain above it, thriving in your purpose, allowing results to communicate what words never could. Your flourishing proves that what was meant to break you became what built you. Life has a way of placing challenges in front of us, situations that test our patience, relationships that betray us, opportunities that are lost, and dreams that seem delayed. In those moments, it is easy to feel defeated, to believe that circumstances have power over our destiny, or to assume that the world is conspiring against us. But thriving, the act of rising above adversity and fulfilling your purpose, demonstrates a profound truth: the very forces that were intended to stop you only strengthened you. When you flourish, your life becomes proof that hardship is not a dead end, but a stepping stone, that setbacks are not failure but preparation, and that opposition is not final but formative. Every person who has ever achieved greatness has encountered moments designed to break them. There were times of loneliness, rejection, misunderstanding, and despair. Yet in every story of triumph, what could have been the cause of defeat became the catalyst for growth. Flourishing is the conscious decision to take what is meant to harm you and allow it to refine your character, sharpen your focus, and increase your resilience. When you look at someone who has truly thrived, you see evidence that adversity did not destroy them, it developed them. Their strength, their clarity, and their accomplishments are all the results of challenges that they refuse to allow to define them negatively. When you focus on growth despite opposition, your life tells a story that words cannot convey. People see your progress, your achievements, and your joy, and they begin to understand that your past struggles do not have power over your present success. Your flourishing becomes a testimony that adversity is not permanent, that pain does not have the final word, and that challenges are not the end of your story. It is one thing to survive difficulties, it is another to thrive in spite of them. Thriving demonstrates that life's obstacles were never strong enough to prevent you from fulfilling your purpose, and that every trial contributed to building the person you were meant to become. Flourishing also redefines the narrative of opposition. People who once doubted you, opposed you, or tried to hold you back are confronted with undeniable proof of your resilience and strength. Your life communicates that their efforts to limit you failed. What was designed to weaken you, embarrass you, or discourage you actually served to propel you toward excellence. Flourishing does not require you to retaliate or argue. It requires you to continue building, achieving, and living your purpose. Every milestone reached, every obstacle overcome, and every step forward becomes a living rebuke to those who underestimated you. Furthermore, thriving transforms personal pain into inspiration for others. When you rise above difficulties, you provide a model for what is possible. Your story becomes a roadmap for those still struggling, a guide that teaches that adversity can be transformed into advantage, and that failure is not final but a foundation for future success. Flourishing demonstrates that strength is not the absence of trials, but the ability to use trials as tools for growth. People are inspired not by your perfection, but by your perseverance, not by your immunity to setbacks, but by your ability to rise despite them. Every achievement in the face of adversity reinforces a critical truth: the world does not define your limits, and neither do your enemies or doubters. What was meant to destroy your vision, damage your confidence, or derail your purpose instead becomes the raw material for a greater version of yourself. Flourishing validates that pain, failure, and opposition are not punishments but lessons, that every challenge carries a hidden gift, and that your destiny is more powerful than any temporary setback. The strength of your character, The clarity of your purpose and the evidence of your progress all testify to the transformative power of resilience and faith in your own potential. When you live in this way, every person who tried to break you becomes a witness to your growth. Their attempts at limitation are overshadowed by your achievements. Their negativity is drowned out by the magnitude of your progress. The life you build, the purpose you fulfill, and the success you achieve provide proof that what was meant to harm you actually healed you, strengthened you, and prepared you for the greatness that was always your destiny. Your flourishing becomes an unspoken but undeniable statement that opposition, failure, and pain never had the authority to stop the one who chooses to rise. The highest revenge is not retaliation. It is rising so high that those who opposed you become irrelevant. Many people misunderstand the concept of revenge. They think it is about responding with anger, striking back, or proving a point through confrontation. They believe that if someone has wronged them, the only way to reclaim power is to inflict harm or to verbally or physically defeat the person who caused the pain. But true revenge is far more profound and far more effective than any act of retaliation. It is not about sinking to the level of those who oppose you. It is about elevating yourself beyond the reach of their influence. The ultimate response to opposition is not conflict, but elevation. When you rise in your purpose, in your vision, and in your calling, the very people who sought to harm you or diminish your potential become irrelevant. Their opinions no longer carry weight because your life is no longer defined by their perspective. They may continue to speak, judge, or criticize, but their words cannot affect your trajectory. Elevation is the most powerful response because it does not feed the negativity of others. Instead, it redirects all your energy toward growth, productivity, and fulfillment. When you invest your focus into rising, your progress becomes a form of silent but undeniable vindication that cannot be challenged or taken away. The act of rising above opposition also protects your peace. Retaliation keeps you tethered to the person who wronged you. It requires that you maintain attention on them, that you dwell on the injustice, and that you allow their actions to dictate your emotional state. Elevation, however, frees you from that bondage. When you focus on your own growth and success, you reclaim your power, redirect your energy toward productive outcomes, and leave behind the distractions of resentment and revenge. The higher you rise, the smaller the opposition appears, and eventually their relevance disappears entirely. Rising above your enemies is not a passive act. It is deliberate and disciplined. It requires that you develop your skills, expand your knowledge, and strengthen your character. It requires focus, persistence, and the refusal to be derailed by negativity. Each step you take toward your goals, each milestone you achieve, and each area of personal growth becomes a statement that no act of opposition can hold back a life committed to purpose. Success itself becomes a shield and a statement. It protects you, validates your effort, and communicates that your destiny is not dependent on the approval or disapproval of anyone else. Those who have achieved true greatness demonstrate this principle repeatedly. They do not waste energy attacking those who oppose them. They do not engage in petty conflicts or arguments to prove a point. Instead, they rise. They focus on building their vision, fulfilling their purpose, and creating a life that is too significant for the critics, enemies, or doubters to affect. Elevation is powerful because it cannot be denied, dismissed, or destroyed. It exists outside the realm of opinion and operates on a level that criticism cannot reach. The higher you rise, the more irrelevant opposition becomes, until it no longer has the power to disturb your progress. Rising above opposition also demonstrates mastery over your own emotions and actions. When someone wrongs you, the instinctive response is often anger, retaliation, or the desire to prove yourself, but responding impulsively keeps you tied to their energy. Elevation requires self-control, patience, and a long-term perspective. It requires that you refuse to let temporary setbacks or the negative behavior of others dictate your path. By mastering your response and channeling your energy into building rather than breaking, you achieve a level of power and influence that cannot be achieved through conflict. Ultimately, the highest revenge is living a life so full, so productive, and so successful that those who sought to limit you become inconsequential. Their opposition no longer matters because your purpose, your progress, and your achievements occupy a space far above them. Rising above is not about ego, it is about effectiveness. It is about proving that your destiny is stronger than their attempts to hold you back, that your vision is clearer than their interference, and that your life is more impactful than their opposition. Elevation makes every act of negativity irrelevant, every insult meaningless, and every attempt to derail you powerless, because the life of someone committed to their purpose cannot be shaken by external forces. When you understand this principle, you no longer measure your life by the limitations imposed by others or the negativity they project. Instead, you measure it by the heights you have reached, the impact you have made, and the legacy you are building. The one who rises above does not need to respond with words, anger, or retaliation. Their life becomes the ultimate statement, the living proof that true power is found not in conflict, but in elevation, and that the highest revenge is not destruction, but a life lived so fully that opposition becomes irrelevant. In the final analysis, understand this: the true measure of your life is not found in the defeat of others, nor in the validation of critics, nor in the silencing of opposition. It is found in the fullness of your purpose, the excellence of your character, and the undeniable fruit of your efforts. To rise above, to thrive in the face of adversity, to transform pain into power, to answer critics with results, and to elevate yourself beyond those who oppose you. This is the path of true greatness. Your life is a message, your success is a declaration, and your flourishing is a testimony that nothing and no one can limit the one who walks in divine purpose. Live so fully, achieve so profoundly, and thrive so completely that your life itself becomes the answer, the vindication, and the silent victory that speaks louder than any words ever could.